most people's wanting is a reaction to what they don't want. Why does somebody go to the gym at the beginning of the year and they pay their $50 to $300 a month or whatever it is, and they maybe even sign up for a trainer because they want to get in shape? Is invariably a reaction to the fact that their doctor told them they got to lower their cholesterol, they got to lose weight, they're on borderline diabetic or whatever it is. So when wanting is based on a reaction, it's never going to really be fulfilled because you're trying to get away from something. So the first thing to distinguish with any business, or regardless of business, relationship, health, any commitment you have in the realm of performance or result, is get clear on, is this something that I truly want to create, or is it something that I want as a reaction to something I don't want?
So this is a very different intro. I will just start with exactly how I'm feeling, because this is such a departure from the shows that we normally create here on the Jasmine Star Show. Today's guest just walked out of my front door, and as he departed, he said, hey, I think you're going to need a few days of just rest, relaxation. Please drink a lot of warm drinks like tea and hot water. He's like, you just went through a lot. So today's podcast took a little bit of a departure. It was completely unexpected. And so I want to start this podcast here by saying the intention for this podcast has only ever been to create content for you. And somehow in the course of this conversation, it very much became about me. A lot of personal things were mentioned, a lot of old school belief systems. I already feel like a little tickle in my throat. It was very, very, very much opening. It was eye-opening. And so I want you to hear my intention on the front end. The intention is to create shows that help you. I took this opportunity unknowingly, and we really used my story. But the goal here was not to make a show about me. I'm hoping, my intention was unexpectedly that my story, somehow you find resonance in it so that you can figure out what's the stories that are going on behind the scenes that are perhaps stopping you from the thing that you should be stepping into. So I acknowledge it with great humility. It is an honor that you're a part of this conversation. But if you are looking for a lot of straight shooting business applications, it started off that way and then it went happily off the rails. So consider yourself warned. I hope that this impacts you as much as it did me. Many thanks to Peter Crone. Welcome back to the Jasmine Star Show. I'm going to start with some straight shooter questions. You know how I do. So what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? It was just purely impossible. How would you act if that success, everything you wanted, was guaranteed? What if I told you that you could have everything you wanted if you let go of just one thing? Okay, so before we get to that answer, I want to introduce you to today's guest, Peter Crone, a brain architect. He helps people step out of what they think is possible and then shows you something even bigger and better for what's possible in your life and business. Peter, welcome to the Jasmine Star Show.
Thank you. Some thought-provoking questions right out of the gate.
Absolutely. It's called a hook, Peter. It's called a hook.
I gotcha.
We want people to stay with you. But before I do that, I really, I was listening to an interview and you had said, I'm in the business of helping people see how extraordinary they are.
Yeah.
You are in a great place because I think many of us as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we believe, deep down, we believe that there's something in us that is extraordinary. And yet it wars coming to the surface. And so I brought you here to highlight how we can bring out our extraordinary and step into a different version of ourselves in business.
Great. No pressure.
Yeah. We set the bar really low here. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will also say, one thing that I don't bring people in on book tours or press tours or promo tours. I bring people in who I deeply believe are going to speak to an audience. And before I do that, before I say who's going to come into the orbit, I want to study you. I want to study what you think of and where that's in alignment. And I will say something unexpected happened. It's my whole, I became wildly receptive when you said that you don't know. Yeah. And then I started internalizing, well, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if this test will manifest in the way that I want it. I don't know if this company will reach the thing that I want. Where did you find that strength for you to start saying, I don't know? And how has that changed how you show up?
I mean, it's sort of pivotal in terms of my own history, my own story, how I became who I am, both personally and professionally. I was dating someone, thought I was madly in love as best as I knew at the ripe old age of 28 or whatever. And somebody, they moved into with me. We had this beautiful relationship that went over the course of close to a year and a half. And then at the end of it, to cut to the chase, she left. And so for me, that was kind of devastating. And in ways that I didn't fully comprehend at the time, it was really the catalyst for me to be able to reconcile and reveal some of the deep traumas that I'd gone through as a kid, because my mum had died when I was 7 of cancer. And my dad had gone to work when I was 17 and I was an only child. So it was just he and I. And he was in a fatal shipping accident, like a major shipping line that went between England and France, England and Belgium. So it was carrying, I think, 1,500 people, and a couple hundred people died. So it was a major disaster, and he was sadly one of them. He was working as the chief engineer on the boat. So anyway, cut to this relationship where I thought this was sort of, finding the right one and all these romantic connotations of what we thought love was. And so she leaves me, I fall apart. I'm a pretty composed guy. I didn't do anything untoward, but I was calling friends, how do I get her back? And there was a conversation for a couple of weeks between us where I was sort of on the other end of the line, hoping that there might be a change of mind, but there wasn't. And then for whatever bizarre reasons, I now recognize that one of the tendencies of the human brain is to try and figure out what's going to happen all the time because we're designed to survive, right? So the primordial imperative of every mammal is that we want to make it. We want to know what's going to happen. And so I was having these incessant questions like, where is she? Is she dating someone else? Will I see her again? Will I find love like that ever again? And they would actually literally keep me up at night for a while. And so this went on for a few weeks. And then there was this euphoric sort of Sartori moment where I had this, call it awakening is sort of the fancy way, but I just had this epiphany and I got the answer to all of those questions of where is she? Is she dating someone else? Will I see her again? And will I find love like that again? And it was, I don't know. And it was so categorically obvious when it hit me, it was just the truth, right? So what it did was it mitigated all of the underlying suffering and the angst that was associated with me trying to find out if my future was going to work out. But simultaneously, I recognized that I had, in a very basic way, recognize the nature of life, which is uncertainty. And so at that moment, I recognized the futility of the way that we're designed as humans is to try and figure everything out, but we're in a context and a dimension where we don't know. And so not only did I realize the truth to those questions, which then gave me freedom and cascaded through my physiology like I'd never experienced, it was complete peace because I was okay not knowing. And so
the friction that was there was because you wanted to know.
Yeah.
And then you acknowledge, I don't know. And acknowledging I don't know brings you peace.
Yeah. So the friction is it's a little bit more slippery and it's more part of the subconscious constraints with which I assert we all arrive, right? So to me, this...
So time out.
Yeah.
So listeners, we are business owners. We want to do the dang thing. We dwell in the land of data and analytics and quant.
Yeah.
And so explain to me. So I've done a lot of work around the conscious, the subconscious, but that kind of sometimes sounds a little woo-woo, right? For a lot of people. So exactly describe when we say subconscious.
Yeah.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay. So basically we're in a house, your beautiful home, and this house can only exist because of the foundations. This house represents that which you're aware of, which you can see, you're conscious of, right? So when you go to bed at night and you're lying there and you can't fall asleep, you're thinking about your business, you're in the shower, you're driving to a meeting, you're thinking. Whatever it is that you're aware of, we can call conscious. That is which you can see, the house. What you can't see is what sustains the house, which is beneath the surface. So that's the beneath conscious, which to me is pivotal because it's the framework upon which all of your thoughts are generated. So why is it that even for an entrepreneur, someone who's disciplined, they're dedicated, they've gone to all the right seminars, they have the right team, their business isn't quite meeting, the quotas or the budgets or the returns that they think they are justified?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Well,
yes.
Because they will be living in a subconscious pattern that they're oblivious to.
Ooh.
And it's the same in relationships. It's the same in health. Why does somebody attract the same kind of partner, male or female or otherwise, that seems to not be available, that seems to be slightly abusive, that seems to be slightly gaslighting, whatever it is? You're the consistent theme in every arena of your life. So that's where the opportunity is, right? It's not because of the climate, the environment or whatever. It's because of the way that you literally relate to life, because of the woo-woo frequency that you live from based on the constraints that are in your subconscious. So you can't build whatever this is, a beautiful 4,000 square foot home on top of a 2,000 square foot foundation. It's not going to happen. Equally, if you live within the constraints and the fundamental limitations that are, I'm not enough, I'm not loved, I'm not worthy, then you can't create an 8-9 figure business. It's not going to happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Crone. He left no crumbs. The question becomes, are you going to pick up what he is putting down? So for the sake of this conversation, and if you have not left already, you will not be going anywhere. I want to break this down because Peter is generously sharing his wealth of knowledge. And he is one of the top coaches for athletes, for entrepreneurs, for a person who wants to radically change their life. And so for this conversation, I want to break it into from working with wildly successful entrepreneurs, what are the top reasons people get stuck in their business? Second part of the conversation is when an entrepreneur is ready to change, what steps can we do to start moving the constraints? How do we bring the subconscious, our foundation, into the home so we start seeing the patterns of why are we attracting the same type of clients?
Yeah.
Why are we not landing the other types of clients? Why do we consistently miss our goals? And then lastly, if we possibly can, what does it mean to be truly confident in our business ambitions?
Let's go.
Okay, let's go.
I'm down.
So, what are the top reasons entrepreneurs, you see this again? What are the patterns that you see? Why are entrepreneurs getting stuck in terms of how you coach people through? What are those common things?
Yeah, I mean, obviously most of my work is somewhat customized, but there are going to be trends, right?
Great,
so you
yes.
got to look at the human being, right? If we're looking at performance in any arena, whether I'm working with pro athletes and the best of the best in business or entertainment, I have to first look at who is the human being, right? You can't optimize performance unless you optimize health, and you can't optimize health until you free your mind. Right, that cascade is to me paramount. And so most people, whatever it is that their performance is, in this case, a business, a startup, who are they is going to determine the thoughts, the feelings, the actions, and the results, right? That's the cascade of creation. So everybody wants good results, invariably in the arena of expertise or sort of going to a specialist or a teacher of some kind, we tend to talk in the realm of action, right? You even go and see a doctor, it's do this, don't do that. It's in the realm of behavior. I'm in the realm of subconscious patterns that drive way before that. That's too late down the cascade of creation as far as I'm concerned. It might work transitory, right? Like quit smoking and and you might get a little bit healthier, or stop eating fats, or whatever it is that people say. But it's short-lived. You can watch The Biggest Loser on TV and they've got the greatest environment with trainers and whatever they're doing in the background, and they're pumping them with stuff to help them lose weight. They lose virtually a whole person, 200 pounds, but meet them in 4 or 5 years, they're back to where they were. Why? Because they haven't shifted their identity, right? Your personality is the precursor to your personal reality. So if you want to have a different personal reality, aka results, then you have to understand how does that come about. Behavior is a key part of it, but your thoughts and your feelings are going to be the precursor to that. And then the who you are for yourself, meaning the blind spots, are what's going to drive all of those thoughts and feelings. So if somebody's stuck, to answer your question, it's because they're misidentified with a limitation at the subconscious level. They're not enough, they're not special, they're not important, their needs don't matter. Whatever it is that arose during the course of their childhood, where they felt that there was something wrong about them, which everybody has, is going to be their biggest limitation. So until you free that, until you free your mind of whatever the constraint is, you can't access your true potential. And that's true of everyone. It doesn't mean that you can't have a good business. I've worked with, 20 billionaires. It doesn't mean that they're successful as far as I'm concerned. They just have a lot of money, right? So they might still have, a very dysfunctional relationship, maybe their third marriage. They might have kids who are addicted to God knows what, or estranged. They may have all sorts of health conditions, right? To me, success is much more synonymous with true peace. That's what I'm interested in finding. Because
real quick. So I'm always putting myself in the shoes of the listener.
Yeah.
And so you're identifying things that could be subconscious mind restraints. Like I'm not good enough. I was never the standout. I'm a constant failure.
Yeah.
Okay. I let people down.
I'm worthless. I'm not.
Okay. So in your experience, do people actually know that narrative, or do they have to find it out?
Some do, with maturity, and sometimes counsel, therapy, good friends, people who know how to listen, people will point it out, but invariably they're blind spots, which is why I say from the perspective of compassion, I'm like you. I want to get results. I work with the best of the best. There's no fucking around. It's like I've worked with Navy SEALs and their whole motto is deal with it, right? There's no time to feel sorry for yourself in my world, right? And I'm one of the most loving guys. So we can have compassion. So you can't be held accountable for that which you're oblivious to, is what I tell people. But let's make the unconscious conscious so that you can handle it, or you can see.
So somebody's listening and they don't have the opportunity to work with Peter Crone.
Yeah.
Is there any exercise that we might develop to say, if I don't have that in my sphere, if I don't have somebody to help me call out those blind spots, is there something that we can start asking ourselves to figure out what the blind spot is? Because how do we grow and break past it if we can't first identify the constraint?
It's a great question, and it is a little bit of a conundrum.
Okay.
It's going to take a certain amount of discernment, intelligence, and usually reflection. You can start to look at, what are the fears? It's a very simple place. Like, what is the fear? Because again, like to go back to your initial question of why an entrepreneur is stuck, I would even go to a deeper question of what is it you're trying to create and why? Right? Because oftentimes, I discern two different forms of desire. There's reactive and creative forms of wanting. And most people's wanting is reactive, which means it's coming from a place of limitation, scarcity, or fear.
Okay, let's slow down.
Yeah. So I know I download pretty quick, but I'm appealing to the intelligence of your audience.
I absolutely know this.
Yeah.
So we create the thing we desperately desire for ourselves.
Typically, but it can be from a place of scarcity, right? So wanting, it's got two sides to the same coin. Wanting is, it creates time, right? Because if you want something, you're creating a future, you're saying, I don't have it. So wanting then is now in the realm of space and time. So when people talk about manifestation, which is in the realm of business, and especially woo-woo and California and all of that, right? But we are manifestors. That's all we're doing all the time. It's not that it's something you just adopt or you don't. If you're living in a world of inadequacy, you are going to manifest a life that reflects that. We just want to be conscious manifestors. So wanting based in time is going to have two components to it. Most people's wanting is a reaction to what they don't want. Why does somebody go to the gym at the beginning of the year and they pay their 50 to 300 bucks a month or whatever it is, and they maybe sign up for a trainer because they want to get in shape? Is invariably a reaction to the fact that their doctor told them they got to lower their cholesterol, they got to lose weight, they're on borderline diabetic or whatever it is. So when wanting is based on a reaction, it's never going to really be fulfilled because you're trying to get away from something. So the first thing to distinguish with any business, or regardless of business, relationship, health, any commitment you have in the realm of performance or result, is get clear on, is this something that I truly want to create, or is it something that I want as a reaction to something I don't want?
Okay. Talk to me about what happens when we create from something of a place of avoidance. Like if we create a business or an offer that we don't realize is from a place of avoidance, but we're doing it. So what comes of that?
You get to be right about the thing you're trying to avoid.
Ooh.
Fear breaks its own heart. So if I'm saying I don't want something, that's what I'm being informed by. Therefore, that is the resonance that I'm constantly occupying or predominantly occupying. And so even when I fulfill on the thing that I think I wanted, so for example, someone might lose weight and that's been their bugaboo for decades. And they finally get to that point, they're still going to be informed by the desserts at a dinner party because they can't have that even though they've lost the 50 pounds. And they see their friends, oh no, I put on weight just by looking at cookies. Whatever their narrative, they're still being defined by it, right? People who win the lotto invariably end up where they were 3 to 5 years later because they don't know how to manage that sense of self-worth, right? So your perspective of not wanting the avoidant energy tends to be the defining energy. So that's why when we're trying to get away from something, which also informs the avoidant, right? I don't want to fulfill on the lack of whatever I've had before. Like when I work with a baseball player, he might be one of the greatest in the major leagues. If he's scuffled through a few games and he hasn't had a hit, he's stepping up to the plate and he's being informed by what he doesn't want to continue, which energetically, the fear of, okay, I haven't had a hit for 3 games, I'm 0-4. I'm now going to be, his energy is going to be in a state of tension. He's not relaxed like he would be in batting practice or he's shooting the shit or he's super confident. So it's self-fulfilling prophecy, business, sports, and anything in life. So it's fulfilling on a future that you see as already being completed is what's actually going to change the resonance of who you are that then shifts your thoughts, feelings, and actions so that then that becomes self-fulfilled. But because people are being informed by the fear of something, that equally that cascade still happens.
Where do you see this finding in like entrepreneurs that you've worked with? Is the I'm building something essentially because I'm trying to avoid something.
Yeah, or compensate or overcome or disprove, right? My brother, my sister, whatever the story is from childhood was the athlete, the academic. And so I'm going to stick it to them, or I'm going to make my parent wrong, or I'm going to show my dad that I'm not a piece of, these can be motivators, right? But you said at the beginning about being forceful, right? And I often will have, certainly my athletes, repeat after me. I say, I am forceful.
I am forceful.
Right. And so when you think I am forceful, what is that? And I'm curious with you particularly because of like the little background we had before. When you think I am forceful, what does that feel like energetically, physiologically?
It feels good.
Okay.
It feels like strength. It feels like power. It feels like I happen to it and it doesn't happen to me.
Got it. And that would have been my guess. So now let's...
ladies and gentlemen, Peter and I spoke 5 minutes before we turned on the camera. So
yeah, but it doesn't take me long to see. It doesn't take me long to get people's energy. Plus, you said being an Aries. So now, if I asked you to say, "I am powerful," now repeat that. I am powerful.
I am powerful.
How does that feel?
Incongruous. It doesn't come as natural to me.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but what does that say about me now?
Well,
I like it. And it doesn't feel off, but it does. I feel I am forceful in a way that I own it. And then I am powerful is yes.
Yes.
Not yes, exclamation point.
Yeah, no, I get that. And again, there's no right or wrong. This is all based on interpretation, and you could, take one or the other and have an extraordinary life. For me, the way I look at it energetically is force is really being driven from a place of lack and control. Where
tell me so he clearly knows a lot about me. Okay.
Yeah, which I would read in your energy, not as good or bad, but it's just, it's going to be a limitation, right? And it's also going to cascade through your life physiologically, and it's going to manifest in all sorts of ways that you take pride in your force, which is part of, ironically, your weakness, right? So we're just cutting
straight. We're having therapy. This is therapy.
This is what happens when you
amazing.
sit in front of Peter Crone.
This is terrible.
So yeah, and this is all done with love, right? So
absolutely.
Because I care, and I also want your listeners to garner from something this, particularly if they're obviously fans of yours, which they will be, and they see and they aspire to everything.
Yes, I'm very open.
Which is beautiful. And so that is your strength, right? Is that there's room for improvement. So, or education or inspiration.
So say that again, that force is a result of lack and want?
It's a byproduct. Yeah. So force, if you think about it energetically, and again, I'm open to anyone's interpretation, the way I look at it, and I've done this for now 3 decades with the best of the best in every industry. So it's been pretty consistently proved that when we come from a place of force, it's a manipulative energy. It's a dominant energy. It's where we're trying to control, right? So if someone were to, just a layperson, a psychologist on the street might say, oh yeah, Jasmine, type A control freak, right?
Yeah.
As a general sort of dismissive, but not inaccurate statement, right? So those qualities tend to be compensatory,
absolutely.
Right. So if we were to dive into, and maybe we'll expose some of it here, I don't know. We've never met before.
Let's go.
Let's
go. Rip me open.
Yeah.
I know how people pay you a lot of money to work one-on-one.
Yeah, unfortunately.
If we turn this podcast into a free therapy session.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So the forcefulness, which is, again, not bad, but it's going to be limited, it's an adaptation, right? So we have maladaptive behaviors, we have adaptive behaviors in the way that we grow up, and especially from our childhood. So I could maybe guess, but you can equally share that some of the things you grew up in and the environment, I don't know if you had siblings, I don't know what your parents were like, to what degree you got attention, you were probably a great student, or maybe you weren't, and you've compensated. Whatever it is, you've become a force. But that force, what I feel, is adaptive, but maladaptive, right?
100.
Right?
Keep going.
Yeah.
All of it.
And so why I'm happy to share this with is, I work again, as I said, with multiple billionaires and the best of the best in sports and entertainment, blessed to get people shout out at concerts, and it's amazing, and I feel very fortunate. But what I hear is in you is no matter what you've created and the audience that you have who look up to you and you're inspiring, you're limiting yourself because it's built on the quintessential sand foundation.
Amen. Tell me something I don't know.
Yeah.
How do I change it?
Okay, well, we can do some of it here. So first of all,
so uncomfortable. I'm literally schwitzing. I'm schwitzing right now. Okay, let's go. I'm 100% committed. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to answer even if it makes me wildly uncomfortable.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I really acknowledge you for that. That means a lot. And thank you for trusting me in this, because again, we haven't met. So the thing to recognize is that there's a huge cost to you emotionally and particularly physiologically, and then eventually in your realm, financially and materially and relation level, when you're coming from a place that isn't truly authentic to your soul, spirit, consciousness, right? So this is ego-based control, right? So the ego from a place of fear, so wanting to be the best, wanting to have the sense of perfectionism. These are qualities that I could see that you've adapted, which they work, right? Like think about just physiologically, right? I studied exercise physiology and biology at school, so I understand the difference between, say, anaerobic or aerobic systems in the body, right? And you would have experienced it, and you're smart, so you probably know some of it too. But if we sprint, okay, you've got a lot of force, but for a short duration, and there's going to be a lot of, lactic acid, and there's a cost to that performance. So your current way of functioning to me is costly. Now, does it get results? For sure. I've got lots of people I've worked with who are complete assholes. They're really controlling, really dominant. They're very dismissive. They're not the kind of people you'd want to have around at Thanksgiving, but they have successful businesses, but at massive expense. So what the access for someone like you who genuinely cares, who wants to be open, is to see the expense of the way that you currently function. It's not a bad system, it's just not an efficient system. And it's a limited system. One of my favorite distinctions that I realize is with your methodology, you become the best version of your limited self.
Damn, I'm so tired of being the best version of my limited self.
Yeah, and that's what I see a lot of. So it's like, I talk about these different dimensions. It's not about improving the space that you're in. It's about busting down walls so that you open up more space to extra possibility. As an analogy, if you were metaphorically like a 600 square foot studio apartment, you would make it beautiful. Just because of your forcefulness, your eye for detail, you're a mature, exquisite woman, you have elegance. I can see all of these qualities. So you could buy a piece that was maybe used by a couple of bums and it had carpet, mold in the drywall, and a washing machine that doesn't even work and all the things. And Jasmine would come in, it would be impeccable by the time you're done with it. Like, PK wood floors from Paris, the walls would be stripped. It would be lead-free paint, RH furniture, be like the wall appliances, whatever. It would be beautiful, but it'd still be 600 square feet. So as an analogy, that's what people are doing. So when people are stuck, to go back to your original question, as entrepreneurs, they're perfecting a limited space.
I feel flayed open right now.
You feel what?
I feel flayed open.
Okay.
I feel like you didn't come with a machete. You came with a scalpel, and I'm knowing I'm bleeding out in front of you, and I'm like, oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Whoa. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I got to get it together, Peter.
No, this is beautiful because this is accessing a part of you that many people maybe don't see. And I really appreciate the vulnerability.
Dang.
It's really beautiful.
This feels so good, and it feels so awkward. It feels very awkward.
Yeah. But it's a safe space. It's a safe space.
So screw the rest of the questions, brother. Screw the rest of the questions.
Yeah.
How do I move from force to power? That is all I want.
Yeah, no, I get it. But sit with that for a minute because what you just said.
I can't feel it. I don't want to feel it.
You can, because in your voice it broke a little bit, right? So there's not an intonation of anyone that I work with that I don't notice. So the beauty in that is that you broke a little bit just in your voice, right? And so that is the knocking down of a drywall in the 600 square foot apartment, which is starting to crumble, which is beautiful. And I really acknowledge you for that because, again, we don't know each other from a hole in the window. So the fact that you're entrusting me with this, it means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure it will touch your listeners incredibly. So,
okay, and hold on. We're just going to make space because my production assistant is bringing me tissue. No. There will be no tears on it. There will be no tears.
We should have.
Okay.
I should have forewarned you.
I know. It's like Peter
guys.
Crone, come with a box of tissue. Okay, no, I'm good.
Yeah,
okay.
no, you're doing great. So the thing to recognize, first of all, it's beautiful, is that there's nothing wrong with the way you have lived your life, but it comes at great expense. And as I said, it's the limited version of you. It's the best version of you, but it's the limited version, right? And so we want to recognize, okay, what is it that's really going on beneath the surface? Like, what is Jasmine really trying to accomplish? Because it looks like it's exogenous. It looks like it's a business. I don't know anything about your business, but it looks like you're trying to do something out in the world. What I would assert is actually all you're really up to, you have a beautiful 5-year-old. If you were to walk into the kitchen and she was snooping around and she sees you and you're like, what are you up to? Right? There's something going on beneath the surface.
Yes.
So what I see is it's not so much, and this will hopefully resonate with your audience too, what you're trying to accomplish outside in the world, but rather what are you trying to compensate for inside? So what was it that you decided at a young age, or what comes to mind as I've spoken and the filet is happening, courtesy of the language, but what is it that came to mind? If you had any recollection from your childhood, where was it incumbent upon her to be perfect? Where did she feel that she had to get everything right? Where did she feel maybe she fell short and then she's like, I'm never going to do that again? Does any of those kind of resonate?
So I'm the eldest of 5 children from an immigrant family.
Okay.
And I just have always fallen into you will be responsible.
Okay.
And you will take care of
there
people.
You go. Yeah.
And and you will, whatever's put in front of you, you will do it.
Yeah.
You will do it.
Yeah. Now just sit with that, right? Because at one level, that's your badge of honor and it's really beautiful. And without knowing you, I can only imagine the myriad of things that you've done behind the scenes, out of sight, even from your parents, and the way that you took care of your siblings is really beautiful. And it speaks volumes about the kind of person you are. And I just want to acknowledge that first of all. But what I also hear is that where's Jasmine's life, right? Where's your life? Because now it's incumbent upon you that you have to, it's in the realm of what I call these insidious killers. There's certain words we use, like I have to, I need to, I must. These are words that people use every day, not realizing they're creating resistance in their body. So in that world where you're young, immigrant family, you're charged with this huge responsibility that should not be a child's, regardless of how old you were. But that now means that you have abandoned yourself because you now have the duty, which it's, as I said, it's mandatory. right? There's no choice anymore. And when we lose choice, we lose freedom. So you've done it for so long, decades at this point. So it's become, like I said, it's your pride, it's your badge of honor, which is beautiful because you obviously care and you probably did things for your siblings that hopefully they're still acknowledging you for in the way that you maybe even saved their life. I don't know. But it's now become your greatest obstacle because you're still being informed by what you have to do, what you should do, what you must do, what you need to. And in that realm, there's no freedom of choice. Does that make sense?
Yep, 100%.
And it's also, if you really can tap into it, and you're a woman, so hopefully you can, what is it like if you just tap into your body thinking about decades of having to do a certain thing that wasn't your choice, the mandatory energy, the superimposition of pressure and responsibility that wasn't yours to have, what does that feel like in your body?
An anvil.
Yeah, heavy, right? And typically the word is it's exhausting, right? So your system, and you probably take impeccable care of yourself, but if I were to look at all of your blood works and all of your stuff, maybe not now, but not far away, 5-10 years, regardless of how well you take care of yourself, we would see the results of that in your physiology, right? Adrenals and whatever else, stomach, all of those things, right? So we don't have to go there, but your physiology has to, it keeps score. There's a book about that, right? But it's like the energetics of what you're doing at a psychological and emotional level have to be stored in the body, no matter what we do to offset it. And that's okay, but I'm excited that we're having this conversation because now I can hopefully introduce you to my main product, which is freedom, right? So if Jasmine can break free, then your physiology can do what it does naturally, which is constantly rejuvenate itself without any impediment to, health and vitality, right? So
if I go back and I do a quick check-in, you had said to sit and be with it. And so while you're talking, I just kept on telling myself to be with it, to feel everything that you're saying. And I feel it deeply. And there hasn't been a single thing that I have disagreed with. Okay. It's just, it was like you just saw my inner side and you turned it inside out and you read it. Yeah. So you read my charts and you see it exactly for what it is. But my default is to do. Yeah. My default is action. And so if I took time to sit through, like you had said, is to sit through our thoughts, feelings, and I immediately go to action. Okay, fine. I immediately want to do something to change from force into power. Yes. And so I'm highly coachable. So what I want Peter to do is tell me what to do. And I'm afraid that you're going to tell me there's not much we can do. We have to be. And I'm like, good God. Yeah, good God. I can't do that. Yeah. For 4 decades. I can't do it yet. 4 decades, all I've known is doing. Yeah, and it's a beautiful attribute that you've developed. And look, without knowing the ins and outs of your life, professionally or personally, I have no doubt that you've accomplished, shit tons, and it's beautiful. But it is in the realm of perspective, not action, right? So meaning, I'm not going to just say some sort of spiritual guru, okay, just be, and just your being is enough. Okay, there's a certain degree of philosophical application to that, but you're a woman of action. So, so I am going to give you the opportunity to act, but it's from a different place, right? So when you live in the world of you have to, you must, you should, what does that feel like? Heavy. It feels like I'm dragging something. I actually explained to my husband and business partner that I turned to him and I said, I am tired of pulling. Yes. I want to be pulled. I feel like I'm ready to be pulled. I feel like there's the different version of me who's calling to me. I feel it. Yeah. So we have this conversation. I had this conversation with my husband earlier this week and I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? It's literally just let go, be open to being pulled. Yeah. And I've just always been so much of a control freak that I pull. And I'm tired of pulling, Peter. It's exhausting, like I said. No, and I see it. And it's really beautiful that you can be here with me in this energy and for your listeners, because I promise you, especially, I'm going to guess you skew predominantly female. And they're, probably mothers too, but they also want to build a business and they're badasses and it's beautiful. But what I see with women like yourself is that you're doing such a disservice to the beautiful feminine that you are, which is more in the nurturance, which is more in the creative and the ethereal. And it doesn't mean you have to walk around and be woo-woo and, Palo Santo your house every day, but, you can still be a badass, but from a place of really nurturing you, right? Okay. Love includes you. And so the dragging, the heavy, the things that you describe is because you're still playing the role of that little girl who thinks it's incumbent upon her to take care of everything, right? That's really the main prison that you're living in. If I were to categorize it in some of the terminology I use, it's all up to Jasmine. Does that hit? Does that resonate?
So what is it like to live in a world where the way it occurs to you, because it's your reality, and we'll discuss that in a minute, the way it occurs to you is it's all, and all is everything, right? It's taking care of your siblings, it's now husband, another daughter, business, podcast, it's all up to you. What's it like to look at now, a little bit removed from your own life and go, holy shit, I live like everything is up to you?
It's sad.
Yeah.
Because I know deep down it's not.
Yeah.
And I think it does a disservice to the people and the team that I have.
Of course.
And so I think that I sell myself a story, I don't know, to push me into greater action and to do more.
Yeah.
And I don't think it serves anybody.
What does it do in the realm of allowing people to contribute to you?
It's funny, before you came, I was having a conversation with our video crew and we were talking about love languages.
Yeah.
And she had said something in passing that had said something along the lines is your love language is correlative to the thing that you didn't have growing up. And so my love language is acts of service. And most of the time I believe that, or she had said, the reason why that's probably your highest love language is because you didn't get help or you didn't know how to ask for help.
Yeah. So it's what you desperately crave.
And so I don't know how to ask for help because I don't know what help I need.
Yeah.
And so I'm very verbal. And if I ask you something, it's very specific, Peter. And so if I just say, help me, and somebody says how, I'd be like, I don't know.
Right.
And so then there's two of us who are lost. And I'm like, that's just not the world in which I dwell.
No, of course. And that's all, everything you're saying is all going to be past reference, right? So you don't know how to communicate from a different place. So even that is more evidence to sustain the ego that's confined, right? Because there might come a time where tomorrow or after this conversation, you do know what to ask. And even if you don't know what to ask, it's okay because they could give you a hug or say, I love you.
And say, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's okay.
I don't know.
Do you see? And so there doesn't have to be an immediate, impetuous result or action that is associated with the fact that, you know what, I'm feeling right now. Oh, honey, I get that. That's okay. You see, for you to give yourself a respite to just be with an emotion for a minute, as opposed to think that it's something to resolve, an action that has to be taken or something that you have to do. Right. So there's this very forceful, very masculine energy, right? Again, none of this is bad. We have all of the qualities. I have a lot of feminine. I make my own skin moisturizers and things.
You
but
do
I'm
have
also
great skin.
No, thank you. But I think for you, and I see this a lot with these very successful, driven women, you know, the masculine has just come online too much. And particularly being Aries, and now that I get a little semblance of what your childhood was like, that it's all incumbent upon you to take care of your entire family, your siblings at least, you know, you start to see, oh, wow, the conditioning is such that there's just no, what you're about to do, room for you to breathe. And see that right there, it's so beautiful, right? Because it's so subtle. But if you had, and I don't know your medical history, if you had any kind of dis-ease in your system right now, your body's starting to heal right in front of me, right? That seems like magic, but it's really beautiful because when you get out of the state of dis-ease, the absence of ease, the carrying the anvil, that's a state of dis-ease, right? There's the absence of peace, which means you have to be in sympathetic mode, fight or flight, which means that you're dumping cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline into your system. There's no repair, there's no digestion. But in that moment where you let go of something, that's the letting go. It's not letting go of the millionth project that you're trying to take on. It's the letting go of energetically thinking that it's all incumbent upon you to do everything. You're literally letting go of the ultimate addiction, which is to our identity. It's letting go of the Jasmine who thinks she has to do everything. It's the death of a version of you. Does that make sense?
Very much.
That's the beauty of this work. I don't solve problems, I dissolve them. And dissolving your relationship, which is maladaptive, it's dis-ease oriented, and it's inefficient in the way that you think everything is incumbent upon you. That's one component for sure. It's the biggest one.
In 2022, I downloaded a word of the year. So in 2022, it was rebirth. In 2023, it was rebirth. 2024, it was independence, not doing it on my own, but doing it my own way. And in 2025, the word is flow.
Okay.
And so I feel that everything you said about the previous version of me, that is the death of me. And I am so stubborn that the death of me has taken me 2 years. And I know that it's supposed to be the flow of me stepping into it because the thing I'm building is a holding company. And I keep on telling myself, I think that I am in the way of it because I keep on thinking that I have to do. And how can I do more when I'm already feeling like I'm doing the most? And what I have to let go of is I have to ask for help. I have to say, I don't know. And then I have to depend on others to do the thing. Like the big vision is there, Peter. I am the resistance.
Yeah, that's okay.
And how do I get out of that?
Yeah, well, we're doing it right now, and I know there's a little bit of impetuosity and patience with people of your disposition. So that's going to be part of your lesson, right? Two of the words that I had to, as part of my, I would say, the final sort of tiers of me getting to the place I was, were the components of trust and patience, right? Which is, for somebody who's driven, their kryptonite. So for you to recognize, okay, if everything's up to you, everything is your responsibility, and there's a new definition of responsibility I'm going to leave you with before I leave. Because right now, it's very dysfunctional. So if it's all up to you, the reason that you have this death-like grip on behavior and everything, but also the awareness, which is great, and the intelligence to recognize you are, quote unquote, the biggest obstacle, which, by the way, shocker to everyone, you are your own obstacle, right? But you just have a pretty big solid wall. If it's all up to you, what is one of the fears that's going to be associated with that? If everything...
my trigger is letting people down.
Yes. So put that in lay terms. Letting people down would be what?
I feel like the talent on this team is remarkable. And I think that they can go anywhere, Peter.
Yeah.
They can go anywhere. And they have bought into this dream, and they've bought into a belief that it's going to be very big.
Yeah.
And I feel like if for some reason I don't execute on that, I feel like I've let them down, and I feel like I've squandered their best years to be somewhere else.
So let's take it, because all of this is being framed by a little girl who's charged with something that made her fundamentally very scared. Two primary emotions that we all have, hurt or scared. Hurt is associated with our history, scared is about our future. They both coexist. The degree to which we've been hurt is usually the degree to which we've been scared. So that little girl was very scared when she was charged with taking care of these siblings at a very young age in a foreign environment. If you're in immigrants, right? I'm guessing that will happen. So letting down, what would that look like to a little girl? Like, you don't say, I don't want to let down my parents, right?
I don't want to let down my siblings. I felt like I wanted to keep them safe. Yeah.
So this adds to the significance of your death-like grip, because keeping them safe has got what associated with it?
Life and death.
No big deal.
Right.
Right?
Right.
For a child.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So life and death is now collapsed with your conditioned response that it's all up to you. There's a lot at stake now. So letting people down could also be termed what? That you could do...
harm.
You could do harm, yeah.
Death to their dream, which to me is very synonymous with like a death to one's life.
It is, but unbeknownst to yourself, that's what you're doing.
I know.
Right? Although now it's becoming very evident. So doing harm is, in lay terms, for the sake of leading the witness a little bit here, doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
So now you live in a world, like, just consider who you be for yourself until this conversation is, it's all up to you. And because it's all up to you, you can't do anything wrong. So now if you collapse those, you've got the anvil of it's all up to me. Now add, and I can't do anything wrong. There's no room for mistakes for Jasmine. Do you see that? That is your reality. That's literally, it's not a belief. It's how the world occurs to you. And rightly so, based on how you were introduced to that responsibility. So it's all up to you, and you can't make a mistake. You can't. What's it like to live in that?
Terrifying. Exhausting.
Brutal. It's really brutal for someone with your intelligence and the size of your heart and the aspirations you have and the potential that is just sitting there dormant. You're literally, and you've done such an incredible job of managing this, in a state of terror, but you've developed all these maladaptive, incredible capacities on the surface, the way you put yourself together, again, not knowing the details of your life, but I can imagine... And again, there's a nice breath, right? You're starting to see the system.
I'm trying to regulate the nervous system right now.
Yeah.
For people who are not watching the video, I am taking the world's biggest breaths.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the anxiety is shooting up.
Yeah.
And I know that there is not a lion that's about to maul me.
No.
This is not life and death.
No. Quite the opposite. You might be in the safest, most loving space you could ever be. And your systems recognize it. So albeit you say the anxiety is shooting up, I'd also say it's shooting out. It's leaving your body, right? Because you're realizing what was previously why I said at the beginning, you can't be held accountable for that which you're oblivious to, which is why compassion comes in. You're an extraordinary woman. Again, I've known you for like half an hour, 45 minutes. I don't need to know the details, but I can see the absolute angst and the tightness of your whole nervous system based on what was charged to a little girl that was not her responsibility to have. So there's only compassion from me, but there's also the inclination and the desire to help you step out of that so that you can live a life of complete freedom. That's my commitment.
How?
Okay, we're getting there. Baby steps.
I know. Trust and patience. And then trust and patience. Trust and patience.
Okay, so we're getting to the main prisons. It's all up to you. If it's all up to you, especially at a young age where lives are at stake, then you have no room for mistakes. Now you start to see again how exhausting it is, because you literally, in the way that you relate to life, you can't do anything wrong. So what are some of the ways that you've compensated, because it's all compensatory, for the fact that you think you can't do something wrong? What are some of your behavioral traits?
I overwork.
Yeah.
I chess out every scenario so that I
Yep.
feel like I'm prepared for anything that comes my way.
You could work for the Secret Service. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will have plan B and I will plan C and plan D.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I work 4 times as hard to be prepared
Yeah.
and pivot, and drive myself even more.
Yeah. Now, as you say those words, do you see the cost to you of living that way?
I think mostly of the cost of my husband and daughter.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. But this is where it really hits the road, right? Is that you really care. I get how much you care, but you're driven by the other dysfunctional part of that, which is worry. I care more than anyone I know, heart-centered, anatomically in the middle of my chest. You live in your head, which is all about
100%.
Self-preservation, pure survival.
100%.
It's all worry. None of your fault. So there's nothing to feel guilty about any of this. This is beautiful. This is probably going to touch more people than you've ever touched, is my guess.
I know. I have to tell myself, like, I feel very selfish.
Yeah.
And I feel like I had prepared for this interview to help other people, and I'm totally using it for me. And so my apologies to people who are watching, but I have to believe, Peter, that somebody else is going to see it and it's going to resonate with them. Because what I want to do is I just want to quit and be like,
Yeah.
hey, Peter, I'll pay you for this. Like, put me
Yeah.
in your schedule in 2027 whenever you have an opening. I'll pay you for this. But what I want to do is I want to stand in the batter's box
Yeah.
and I want to get a hit. And I'm not going to leave the batter's box until I get a hit because I want to change. Dang it!
No.
Oh God, this is so awkward. Oh my God.
No, this is beautiful. And really, I see you, right? And whilst you think that you're being selfish, I would absolutely guarantee, as somebody who's done this for decades, this might be the most selfless thing you've ever done, because all of your previous behaviors were selfish, unbeknownst to you, because you were actually trying to survive your own limitations. That's all about you.
Okay.
So this actually is selflessness, because you're giving other people who are listening, watching right now, the opportunity to see their own cages, their own prisons that they've been living in, under the guise of, I'm a great wife, I'm a great mother, I'm a great business person, or whatever it is. But really, they're usually adaptations to our own feelings of inadequacy that really is about us. We get to constantly be right about where we are.
That's right.
Shortfall. So really, for me, I say, being right is the poor man's version of self-worth. You get that? So you get to be right about, in this case, these two really what I call linguistic fortresses, because they're just prisons of your own language.
That's right.
But you are trapped in the idea that it's all up to you. And as a result, just beneath that is you cannot make a mistake. So the compensations are, as you said, you work hard, you've got all these strategies, plan B, you're a perfectionist, you're a control freak. These, I promise you, are qualities that right now, everybody listening is like, holy shit, that's me.
Okay.
And that's why this is a gift.
Okay.
Because that's why they are stuck as entrepreneurs, to go back to the original question. That's why they're not maximizing their returns. They're not getting the investments that they wanted to be realized in the way that they anticipated, because they're living in a prison of their own unknowing. And you're exposing yours, which vicariously lets them see theirs. Okay? So less awkward.
Okay. A lot less. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's going to be other sort of co-actors in this script of the prison that Jasmine's lived in. But so let's look at the first one. When you live in the world of it's all up to you, we've talked about how that feels. It's heavy, you're dragging. You've even talked to your husband recently that you're feeling like you want to step into this version that's allowing. So the time is perfect in this conversation, because we're going from a place where you're trying to avoid something to allow something. You're trying to avoid anything going wrong, which is, when you look at it as a mother, as a woman, first of all, just using basic intelligence, it's such an asinine way to live.
It is.
It doesn't even make sense. I think I'm one of the smartest people I know, and I all the time because I'm okay with it, right? That's my humanity. So for you to recognize you're living in a world that not only is unlogical, it's actually futile because it can't be fulfilled.
Right.
And again, it's all come down to subjective. What is wrong? What is right? Okay, but still, you're human. Right. And especially now as a mother, and she's young enough as this beautiful daughter, that, you want to give her the gift that is her humanity.
Right.
that is compassion for self, that is love. Otherwise, she's going to grow up into mini-me, and you're going to see a kid who's on Adderall in high school, who's going to college but can't keep up and has got anxiety disorders because she's trying to be like a mum and get everything perfect, right? Just being a little bit more sort of categoric here, friend to friend, like, pull your head out of your ass because I get how much you care. And you, as we saw with the tears, how much this is impacting your husband and your daughter. So this is going to be a gift not only to them, but to everyone listening. So let's look at the first prison. We can understand you were charged with this responsibility and this responsibility to complete on what I promised, which is to redefine it. Your responsibility is the old form of responsibility. It has got guilt and shame associated with it, right? You're responsible, that energy, right? And so what that child heard is responsibility. If you do something wrong, there's consequences and it's your fault, right? Do you see that?
Yeah.
Responsibility I talk about is much more, it incorporates the essence of why we incarnated without getting too esoteric. Responsibility is that I'm 100% responsible for my life, but not from a place of guilt or shame, but from accountability, because I'm a man of honor. And if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, I'm responsible, not I'm a bad guy, but I just didn't complete on what I said. Do you see the difference?
Yep.
So in this conversation, you're actually now going to become responsible, but you're going to become responsible for what you've been up to, as I said earlier, which is you've been pretending that it's all up to you and that you can't make mistakes. And it is a lie, because it's not only completely futile, it's completely, as I said before, you can't complete on those, right? So where were you born?
In California.
In California. Okay.
Southern California.
So if I were to cut you open, this is an exercise I take people out, and you can only answer yes or no.
Okay.
Am I going to find a physical manufacturing label, pick your material, wood, metal, or plastic, inside of you that says, Jasmine, born in California, it's all up to her?
No.
I'm not, right?
No.
And yet it defines your life. So it exists somewhere. So where does it's all up to you exist? If it's not part of your physiology or your hardware, where does it exist?
My mind.
Yeah, it does. And in the mind, what are these things made up of? And again, you don't get to be biologically and specific here. It's all up to me is what?
Words?
It's words. It's literally words. So if it's just words in your mind, the thing is you've got history, you've got decades of evidence. So that's why it's got the gravity. But I'm breaking that down. It's just words. It's up to me in your mind. Is it therefore a categoric truth in the universe that it's all up to you?
No.
It's not, is it? And just now sit with that. You've been living in a lie through no fault of your own, so that's the old responsibility, that you believe, beyond belief, it's who you are, it's all up to you. That's how you relate to life. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. But it's a lie. That's the good news. So now this is all new, and I tell people I'm introducing you to a world that you're not familiar, so it might take a minute, but you're smart, and you're paying attention. I really appreciate that. And the absence, I dissolve, don't solve, the it's up to me is gone. And again, it's going to be unfamiliar. What might be possible in the way you would feel? If it's not all up to you, how might you feel?
I'm free, that I'm a part of a team, that it's something bigger, that the I becomes we, and that makes me very excited.
Yeah, it's different.
Very.
We're just knocking down a couple of walls in the 600 square foot apartment and discovering.
Baby. Let's go to 4,000.
Let's go to 40,000.
That's right.
You know,
That's
for
right.
me, it's like living in this world of abundance, which is waiting. Somebody said to me the other day, a very astute woman, she's done a lot of work, and she's a single mom of 2 beautiful kids. And we've got to connect recently, have some beautiful dialogue about some of these different ways of actually looking at the human experience. And she's very astute. But where one area she struggled with is finances. And she said, I'm really embodying my feminine, I'm softening, I'm allowing all of these beautiful qualities. She said, and I'm really excited to create abundance. Sounds amazing, doesn't it?
Yes.
I said, but you can't, because abundance is. What we're interested in is not creating abundance, but making you available to it. That might trigger a couple of your entrepreneurs, right? Because most people are trying to get something, which again is reinforcing what they don't have.
Yes.
So you are surrounded by, it sounds like, extraordinary people, certainly the people I've met here today, and I'm sure your husband and daughter are just exquisite. They all love you. I love you, and I've only just met you, right? I'm a very loving guy, but you're an amazing person.
I receive it.
So you can allow those people around you to actually now truly contribute to you because you become available in the absence of thinking it's all up to you. And beyond the people in your life, you get to, without sounding too esoteric, let life contribute to you, which is what I would assert is the intuitive sense of you're now allowing something to come to you. That's where life is trying to contribute to you. You got this little old shack called your ego. You're pushing it so hard up against the door and like, I've got this. And there's this world of abundance that's waiting to come to you in the absence of you thinking it's all up to you to take care of it. How's that sound?
Man.
Still spritzing?
I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel so good. And I will not apologize for, because what comes up, I think, being the eldest and being responsible is, well, I have to make sure that everybody else has the same feeling. And so I hope that everybody else has the same feeling. And in case you don't, the good news is that Peter is very accessible. We'll turn this into a business component now. PeterCrone.com. I have to say that because I want to point people to a place that they might be able to find a little piece of this for themselves. And one thing that really hit is abundance is.
Yeah.
And I'm ready and willing to make it available to me. I'm tired of holding up the door on my 400 square foot beautiful studio apartment, but I'm ready for the 40,000 square foot palatial estate.
It's right there beneath your feet.
To us all. Thank you.
I'm not quite done with you, if that's okay. If you're okay for a little bit of time, because it's important to me.
Things coming back. All right, let's go, Peter. Let's go.
I don't want to leave you hanging, and more importantly for your audience too, because I like to complete these things as a man of integrity, right?
Thank you.
So it means a lot to me that I don't want to kind of do this open heart surgery in front of everybody and then just kind of leave a few parts open and hanging on the operating table, right?
Okay.
So, in the absence of the it's up to you, you got the sense of freedom. That's why I call my product freedom, right? So you get to be free of you, the version of you that was previously the obstacle to everything that is waiting there for you to enjoy, right? So that's the freedom from, it's not up to you. You get that categorically, right? It's not up to you. And the difference is from the insidious killers of I have to, I should, it's up to you. You still can choose. I love to take care of people. I love to create. I love to be active, right? That now it's got a different resonance about it, right? Before it was no choice and now it's choice. So real freedom is about choice.
Ooh.
That makes sense?
Very much.
So now you're still going to be a badass. You're still going to be active, and you're still going to have some of this, what I call karmic momentum, meaning some of your old habits are still going to sometimes want to kick in. And it's like, oh, we got to take care of this. And it's like, oh, hang on a minute. I can just kick back. I don't have to.
Yes.
But I'd like to, right?
Yes.
So that's a different world. So the other one I still want to address, because that really was in the realm of life or death. It's very heavy. Is it true? Again, cut you open. Am I going to find a manufacturer neighbor says that Jasmine, born in California, she can't do anything wrong?
No.
No. It's kind of asinine when you look at it. Where does it exist?
My mind.
And what is it made up of?
Words.
Totally words. So really get this, folks. Everybody at home, you are being stopped by sound. Now just get that. That's really profound. Your whole world, from physiology to whatever you've been through in relationships, not just an amazing husband, past boyfriends where you had to be the perfect girlfriend. I can only imagine the way you showed up for all the men in your life, the way that you have to show up, all of this in your life with your current family and your daughter and your business and blah, blah, blah. It's exhausting, right? There's no room for error in your world. And all of that, the impact, the effects, the exhaustion is based on words. And that's why I love what I get to do. Because you're being stopped by sound. It's up to me. No, it's not. You can't do anything wrong. So if it's in your mind in words, is it true as an absolute truth you can't do anything wrong?
No.
No. What does that feel like?
Great. Because I think what I visualize right now is I can't do anything wrong, and I picture an eyedropper that points something in and that dissolves the whole thing. And visually just being able to break it apart allows me to think and feel it viscerally different in my body.
Yeah. You get now to give yourself the permission, which is ironically always there as part of being human, to just be human. And wrong is a subjective conversation. There's a kid out there right now who's breaking a window somewhere in Newport Beach because he saw a handbag. We could say that's wrong, or it's even bad, or he's a criminal. But if you knew his genetics and his upbringing, and he had a single parent who was an addict, and he only found some sort of belonging in a gang, and now he has to pay his way, and it doesn't make it right, but it's not wrong. We can have compassion. And if he gets caught, he'll go to juvenile prison for a minute or whatever. But it just softens the whole world of judgment that we live in, right? We can start to be more compassionate, starting with ourselves. And you haven't had much room for that, if any.
No.
And I hope after today, you will not only have more love for yourself, but as a result, be more available to love from others, which also, by your own intention, actually allows you to love others more authentically. Because there's going to be days where you don't feel like doing everything, but because you've so conditioned yourself to show up, you do. But it's okay for you to be human. It's okay for you to just be Jasmine. And that's a gift to everybody, because in doing that, you also give them permission to have their off days. It's okay. And that's what the world needs more of. The world doesn't need more entrepreneurs who are willing to do 10x the work of anybody else. As far as I'm concerned, the world needs more people who understand what it is to live from true freedom, true love, and a true sense of possibility.
I think you just dropped the mic. Peter Crone, thank you.
Didn't expect that today, did you?
Not at all. And it's crazy because I test things out and I plan and prepare. And so it felt like I was extraordinarily caught off guard.
Yeah.
I was not prepared. And I think that the only way I would be able to hear it so clearly was because I was wildly unprepared.
Yeah, because otherwise your ability to prepare is second to none and you would have not been available, which is why I'm 100%. So grateful that it unfolded this way.
And I am so grateful for you. I am so grateful for you.
So now what becomes possible? Again, I'm introducing you to a world that you're not familiar with, which is really the name of my business is 2.0 World. I'm introducing people to a new space where we can actually inspire the realization of a new type of human being. Like that's how grandiose I think. It's not from a place of limitation, which gives fear, suffering, disease, and dysfunction. That's the world we live in. This is a world of freedom, love, possibility, vitality, and harmony. Completely different. So stepping into that, you're just dipping your toe into this new paradigm. What might life look like, or how would you feel just walking around as a woman?
Unstoppable.
Yeah.
I actually would feel powerful.
Very powerful. That gave me chills.
It gave me chills too.
Yeah, that's different than forceful, isn't it? Now you can see the pride, which was so well-founded in being forceful, was a disservice to the extraordinary woman you are when you're just being you and powerful.
And here I thought I wasn't going to cry again. Ladies and gentlemen, petercrone.com. Please follow him on Instagram, on LinkedIn. He does have a freedom platform, and he wouldn't talk about it himself. It is a membership where he has hours and hours and hours of research. It's $29 a month at the time of this recording. Yeah. And so you can get all that information on petercrone.com. He also offers a lot of other things. And so sign up for his free newsletter. Get into where he's at, find out his heart, and figure out how you might find freedom for yourself. And so it is with deep gratitude that I say thank you for being here. And I want to say thank you to those of you who decided to not turn away from the YouTube video and to continue listening to this audio. This was a self-serve, and I hope in service of others. Thank you for watching and listening to the Jasmine Star Show. I can't even get through it. Thank you guys so much.